Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome everyone to the People First Builders podcast. I'm your host, Fletcher Wimbush. I'm really excited to have Lance Cayko on our podcast. He is the founder of F9 Productions, design build architectural construction firm. Lance has been a serial entrepreneur. He's an architect. He's a builder. He's a lecturer. He's a girl dad, a professional fly fisherman, as I've learned. And so we've got a ton in common. Lance, tell us just a little bit about how did you get into this space and how did you end up where you're at?
Yeah, I'm actually a boy, 3 boys, 1 girl dad, and then I reverted from fly fishing backwards to spin fishing because I like to actually catch the fish. And there's just too many snobby fly fishermen out there. So the reason I'm sitting here today is I decided to not farm with my dad for one summer. I grew up in Northwest North Dakota, in between a cattle ranch and a sugar beet farm. Lasted about a week with him, and we were super poor farmers to where we would actually end up putting up, we had to irrigate our crops by hand. And in North Dakota in the summer, it's like 100% humidity, 100 degrees. It was just an awful job in so many different ways. We didn't really get along. And so I called his best friend Bruce up. His best friend Bruce is a general contractor. And I said, I will do whatever. And he goes, great, you can be my gopher. I'll pay you $7.25 an hour. And I go, cool, what's a gopher? And he goes, you can go for this, go for that. When you're done going for the things, then you can get up on the roof and learn how to roof. I was the best gopher he ever had. I think he saw a lot of talent in me. I was asking questions. I was enthusiastic about the job. I just fell in love with the construction industry at that point. And about halfway through the summer, Bruce set off a light bulb in my head that changed my whole life. And it was, he explained how service-based businesses work and how you make money. And I had like a poor dad, rich dad experience growing up. And I didn't realize that until maybe like 10 years ago when I read the book.
Yeah.
But looking back, Bruce was my rich dad. My dad who raised me was my poor dad. And they had different proclivities and aversions to money. My poor dad was highly anxiety. The anxiety around money was just awful. You know, him and my mom would always have this cope of, well, money isn't everything. And then about 8 years ago, my favorite rapper, Kanye West, finished a sentence for me in one of his lyrics, and he goes, having money isn't everything, and not having it is. And I went, oh, that was the part I was missing. So Bruce really took me under his wing. Like I said, about halfway through that first summer, he pulled me aside, and we were having lunch or something, and he goes, I pay you $7.25 an hour. How much do you think I pay or charge the customers? And I go, $7.25 an hour. And he laughed, and I was embarrassed. And he explained the multiplier effect, why you have to have a multiplier effect for service-based businesses. He explained profit, overhead, all that good stuff. And then I saw how he didn't have an anxiety around money. It wasn't that he was rich. It was just that he was free from the anxiety. And I, at that point, decided like, well, I want to be you. And so at the end of the summer, I said, Bruce, how do I become you? If that's what I want, if this is what I want to be. And he said one of the most like brave and just honest and honorable things I think another man has ever said to me. And he goes, next summer you don't work for me. And I go, what? And because he knew he loved me. Yeah. I love him. And he was like, you got to go learn a different trade. Like next summer you got to go do concrete. Summer after that you got to go do framing. He goes, if you want to be me, then you got to. And like what a like a strong thing for a guy to say. I was just like so impressed.
Set you free to be successzour
Yep, exactly. So that's what I did. Went to tech school for 2 years. At the end of the tech school, another light bulb went off, and our capstone project we had to build a house together. All the construction guys. It was building construction technology was the degree in Wapaton, North Dakota. And I got to looking at the blueprints, and the word architect was obviously, the architect drew this. So like, why did they draw it? And I went, wait a minute, like they get the clients first.
Yeah.
Oh man, if I became an architect, and at this point I was finally like loving school. I was really, really into it. I was like an honor student all of a sudden, getting scholarships because I could pick what I wanted to do, you know?
Yeah.
And
Found a passion too, right?
100%. So I applied to North Dakota State, 70 miles north, and went to architecture school. And the sales funnel's working. And now we have this amazing design plus build firm in Colorado, and it's just been a fantastic ride.
That's awesome. So that's a pretty inspirational story. So you had some influencers in your life, and you really they gave you the opportunity to get a taste of this world, and you caught the bug, obviously, and took that all the way, and that's really amazing. I mean, that's really the beginning, or I don't know if you're an E-Myth guy, but the beginning from being a technician to a manager, and obviously now you've reached this kind of entrepreneurial stage in your career. What your old boss, that first guy who brought you under his wing, I imagine he saw something in you and he recognized you. This podcast is all about the people in this industry. Obviously, there's lots of people who get this bug, and there's plenty of people in the industry. There's also a massive deficit of people in this industry. So I think there's two sides of this. How have you dealt in your journey in building your firm and on the people side of things? I imagine, starting from the beginning of your firm, who was it? Was it just you, or, how'd you start it and how'd you grow it so that you could not worry about money and you could get that multiplier effect and spend time fishing and doing the things that you like and enjoying your life?
I like to make an analogy to nature almost everything that is in my life, right? We live in these like built environments. And so the analogy that I thought of right away was like, oh, when we started the firm 15 years ago, we're a cell. Yeah. And how does a cell divide? It has to replicate itself, and then it divides equally, right? And so my business partner and I were that cell. And then we were able to divide. And what early on, what we ended up doing was I would do most of the billable work to make us survive, and he would do a lot of the marketing and trying outreach and just trying to get our name out there and stuff like that. Like there were some really unique things that we ended up doing. Like for instance, in 2012, one of the Google trends that was Googling, the trends that are Googling, whatever you can search up, like what people are looking for was doomsday stuff. And so we came up with this website. It's called Doomsday Dwellings. Doomsdaydwellings.com. You can still go to it. And we designed these 4 different houses that could survive the 4 different types of like major natural disasters. One was like a flood, one was an earthquake, one was a fire, one was a nuclear bomb even. And we pushed that out into the media, and it went kind of viral. Wow. And we got in all these magazines, one of which was Modern in Denver, which is like our version of Dwell down here. Okay. And we got a 7-page spread. And like, there was no way when we were that young with no money that we could afford that kind of advertising. So those are some like one example of creativity that we did, but that's where the multiplier started. Yeah. And then after that, basically a lot of how we started to recruit people was we went to go teach at CU Boulder because we both hold master's degrees, so we can teach. And we started, our best students became our best TAs, and our best TAs became our best employees. And now that's how we have our 2 project architects, Alex Gresh and Ross Heck. Is that's exactly the formula that we did with them. And then ever since then, now for the last 13 years, we've taught between CU Boulder and North Dakota State, and we call those our farm leagues. So we try to recruit from the ground up. And I actually like when employees come into our firm and they don't know anything in terms of like the software or like how architectural practice actually works. I like when they're balls of clay. Like I'm totally okay with
no
that.
preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's what I've seen, successful architectural and engineering firms. I mean, I think those 2 sectors in particular have the folks like you who have been extremely successful in growing and scaling a firm have done a phenomenal job of getting in there with the university students, and telling your story, like you told before, helping inspire them about this career path. But then that makes them the best students hopefully gravitate towards you and want to be your TA, I imagine, right? And then want to come work for you. And because that's what leadership's about, right? People, you got to inspire them. You got to make them excited to want to do the work with you, right? As opposed to trying to just bribe somebody with money to come work for you, right?
Yeah. I love that leadership is like, I feel like leadership is about inspiration, not dictation.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to beat that into my dad's head, who thinks like I'm this giant dictator. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's not even close to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these people have choices, right? I mean, they're in high demand if they're working for you. I mean, if they're an architect or an engineer or anybody working in the construction space,
Mhm.
other people want to hire them, right? So why do they come and stay working for you?
Yeah, so important. And our best employees, the ones that have stayed with us the longest, are the ones that exactly like you said, Fletcher. They chose to be here. Like they reached out to us, and we were just there and inspiring, and then they gravitated.
Yeah. And so getting them when they're young, getting them as they're learning, allowing you to get the pick of the litter, and also letting them gravitate to you through being able to tell your stories and be inspirational as a teacher, right? And I guess, when you think about that, that leadership concept, is universal, right? Being a teacher, educating, helping people grow both personally and professionally, is definitely going to make that relationship sticky in any any employer employee relationship, right? It changes that dichotomy quite a bit. What would you say has been kind of some of the biggest challenges you've faced in growing your business, and especially as it relates to the people side of it?
It's not employee retention. I think we have a pretty good retention rate. We have a person who's been here for 8 years, two people that have been here for 8 years, not including me and Al, and then one person for 7, and then there's a 4, and then we have like 4 or 5 different just people that are brand new,
Yeah.
that came in and stuff like that. So I would say it's not retention or anything like that. I think managing the personalities is something I didn't really think about right away. Um, and so trying to understand that dynamic, and when people come in and for some reason they were very happy at one point and then all of a sudden they're kind of not, and then you're trying to seek to understand of like why are they not happy? Like what is going
Yeah.
on at work? Like what changed in that kind of situation? But the biggest one I would point to probably is that sort of another sort of epiphany. So there's this famous Steve Jobs clip that goes around Twitter and LinkedIn often, or Insta, whatever, and he's talking about the their mistake that they made at Apple when they started to get big. And the mistake was with personnel was they thought we're going to bring in these big managers from like
Mhm.
Xerox or something, and big corporate managers,
Yeah.
and they were just awful. He's like, they're just awful. And their lesson is like your best doers actually need to become your managers. But it's a issue. Like that's a hard thing to get them to do, and you have to convince them, you have to inspire them, because to do that, and you have to coerce them in a certain way, like holding money over their heads is a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Like if you can say, look, you'll get a promotion if you become a manager, like otherwise you're just going to be like this one person team, which is not even a team, right?
Yeah.
In the architecture office. So that has been our biggest challenge lately, is convincing the best doers that they are therefore poised to be the best managers,
Mhm.
and they have to do both. Like it's like, hey, I'm sorry God gave you all these gifts, but
Yeah.
you got to lean into it, and
Yeah.
there's a big carrot at the end.
Yeah, when I talk to a lot of architectural and engineering firm principals, owners, managing principals, and that's a pretty common theme that I hear in this world. So you get these young people, they get maybe 4, 5, 6 years. They're starting to get their licenses. They're becoming accomplished. They're becoming quite skilled in their trade. Right now, they're very competent and capable individuals. And I was actually just talking to a guy on the playground with my kids the other day. He was an engineer, and he's like a senior engineer, and he was like, they put a lot of pressure on me to take the next step, become a project engineer, or become a
Mm-hmm.
manager, or to get on principal track, right? And he's
Yep.
like, I don't know. And I look at these guys and I see them, working their tails off, and, how hard it is to do that job. And he's like, I don't know if I want to do that job. So I think that's kind of what you're saying here. So, what are some thoughts here? Have you been able to successfully convert a technician, architect, and transform them into a leader? And where have maybe you struggled? Maybe one person you were able to get that done successfully, and another person where it's just like I couldn't get it done. They washed out, right?
There hasn't been a failure yet. like a total abject failure. I mean, I would say one of our managers and project architects is 100% already there. I'm just like so convinced, like, oh my gosh, what a talented person, what a stud.
They have like the
Just
natural personality and like inclination towards going that direction, right?
calm, cool,
Yeah.
steady, can't shake their nerves, almost father-like, even though this person doesn't have children. And then there's the other one that's it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder. Part of it is not all of that person's fault. I think there's some lower level staffing issues we're still trying to work through and get the people he's in charge of up to speed and get him some better staff underneath him. But the mechanism that we ended up inventing, and other people already do this too, but it's our we think we invent like internal things,
Yeah.
and that was a leadership meeting. So we started a bi-weekly F9 leadership meeting, and it's just me and Alan, the two PAs / project managers, and the reason we started that is because I was like, oh, I think one of these guys feels like they're alone. And they think it's like, no, I need to show them, we need to show them, me and Al need to show them that they're not alone, that like everything that person is going through, the other project managers going through that too. And how can, so just with them being able to identify in a safe space,
Yeah.
so to speak, where we can talk freely about what's going on with managing people and projects and consultants and all the other good thing, has been super healthy, because now that person doesn't feel siloed. And now we moved it to just a monthly F9 leadership meeting. But I think for us, that was the big, I didn't expect us to have to do that. And it was like I really like when sort of the negative things happen,
Yeah.
because then there's always seems like there's a positive thing, especially if you're a problem solver.
So these guys come to you and they're saying, I'm frustrated. I'm feeling maybe burnout. I'm not feeling successful in this role. This was a good response, was be able to kind of, get them to peer-to-peer learning. And I'm assuming you guys were sharing some of your own journeys in this. You all went through this same experience at some point, right? And you could share some of your experience as well. That's really great. And keeping it, I would assume, focused on the leadership aspect, not the task component of the job, right? I think
Exactly.
is a big piece. It's easy to derail a conversation to like, what's our project roadmap and what are we doing? No, it's not about that, right? It's
not about that at all, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
Peer leadership.
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah. Okay, well, great. Lance, this has been, a good kind of glimpse in there. Oh, my last question before we move on to kind of how people can get a hold of you and kind of wrap this up is, I'm curious about this, helping these folks understand the end game in this particular career path. You want to be a principal in an architectural firm or engineering firm. I find being very similar paths.
Mm-hmm.
How do you talking about this with your guys, your PAs, how are you communicating? What does that end journey look like for them? Are you sharing financials? Are you sharing like what this means like financially for them when they get there? Also lifestyle too. So there's how much money are they going to make, or what kind of that opportunity might look like monetarily, but also personally, like how many hours am I going to put in? What kind of workload am I going to have to do? Like, how does my role change from a PA to now a principal? What kind of conversations are you having with these folks?
So right now they're both we keep using these terms: project manager, project architect. There's the next layer before principal usually is senior project architect, senior project manager, to where then we would have to multiply them again, right? Where they underneath them they would have like a project architect and then 2 or 3 staff members underneath that. And we keep forming these triangles and trees, right, of hierarchy. So I just want to pin that for a second. And then when it comes down to the lifestyle and the workload. So we live in Colorado and we moved here. We all moved here for a reason. I think there's only like 2 natives in our office, actually. The rest are just all transplants, including myself, right? I moved here in 2008 and all that. But even the people that are here, it's like, why do you live here? Oh, the mountains, the skiing, the hiking, the fishing, the hunting, the breweries, like everything, even the 420 tourism, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, And then our office literally looks at the mountains from the prairie every day. And Alex and I, my business partner, we have really strived to be positive contrarians compared to most architects and other architecture firms. One example of that relates exactly to this is like we take 7 to 4 or 8 to 5 very seriously. We do not like I will get after people if they start sending emails after 5 p.m. and if I see any kind of work done on a weekend. The only Alex and I outright tell them is like the only people that should be working more than 40, 45 hours a week. The only people that should be doing that in the office is me and Al, because we're the principals. And so they know that that's when that's coming. That's sort of the way in which we're telling them. In terms of the monetary carrots, where we're saying like, well, this is also, your workload would increase, but then you get more money because then you'd be maybe also you'd be a partner possibly if you're a principal. You can start buying stock. We just have previewed that this year. We have this big, huge thermometer in the office right now. And we have a financial goal we're supposed to meet every week or every month. And everybody knows what that number is. And if they were really autistic about it, I'm sure they could do some reverse math and see like where we're at with salaries and all of that. We're not open book. But we have a goal we're supposed to meet every week, and everybody knows the common goal. And then right next to that also, though, is so it's not just about money. It's like we're here to serve because we have these 9 principles on the website. It kind of plays into the F9 logo,
like core values and everything.
Yep. And one of them is serve the client, serve the contractor, serve the city.
Okay.
And when we do those things right, that's why we have 87 5-star reviews on our Longmont list, Google Business Listing. That's why we have 41 5-star reviews in Denver. That's why we were nominated for we didn't win last night, but almost the 3rd year in a row Best of Mile High in customer service for architecture in the whole state of Colorado. And so then next to that thermometer, then we have little stars. Matter of fact, after this show, I need to go fill it out because we got another 5-star review from people. And so that's how we package the whole thing together. But we really take that work-life balance / harmony. For me, it's harmony. Seriously, like I want people refreshed when they come back from the weekend. I want them refreshed when they come back from their vacation. I want them refreshed when they come back just the next day. Like we don't do this whole, 60 hours a week that a lot of architects and engineers really think that's a positive thing. And it's like, if there's anything the COVID stuff taught us is like, whatever side of the coin you're on, it's like life is short and your freedom can be taken away real quickly. You better like take advantage of living, because I'm not going to be that guy, and I don't want my staff to be that guy or gal on their deathbed regretting not being outdoors more and doing the cool stuff versus like, I wish I'd have been in the office. That never happens.
Well, it's great that you're taking leadership and you're sort of mandating guys like, get it done, or, get out of here. That's it. Turn it off. And, it's almost the opposite, right? Of, so you're being reprimanded for working on the weekends, not celebrated for that. Right. 100%. And I see that's a huge leadership opportunity that a lot of professional services firms sometimes miss, and so I think it's a great lesson to be sharing with folks. And I think that hopefully, obviously, as you can see with your firm, has allowed people to be very sticky for you, right? So there's something they like about working there. And I love that you're adding in that extra piece about, who's this for? It's for our customers, and our customers are the contractors and the engineers and the cities, right? So these are all of the people that you're serving, and it's a great way to measure your future success, right? If you're not getting those accolades, you're not getting those reviews, you're not getting the recognition, then probably the work is going to stop coming, right? Right. So that's an amazing story. Well, Lance, how can your customers and your employees, or future employees who might want to come work for you, find you?
3 different ways. If you want to hear more about sort of the business techniques and tactics I'm talking about, you can go to insidethefirmpodcast.com and check out our show. We're on YouTube, we're on iTunes, we're on all the major platforms, Spotify. If you want to keep up with everything we're doing in our design build firm, you can go to f9productions.com, sign up for our newsletter. We send out a newsletter once a month. And then if you want to link in with me, I will link in with anybody. You go to linkedin.com and search for Lance, Lance, last name Cayko, Cayko.
Awesome. Lance, I'll make sure that all that stuff shows up in the show notes and all the content that we produce along with this, so that you'll be easy to find. And I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thanks, Fletcher. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on the socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.